Hello, everybody, and this is Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. And if you would subscribe to my videos and hit the little bell to get notified when I upload new videos. I've just realized I need to turn my volume up. And if you give the video a like, if you enjoy it, this all helps with YouTube's algorithms. Subscribers and likes are where it's at. And if you want to know when I upload new videos, then you hit the little bell and you get a little notification in your YouTube. But anyway, this video, I am actually going to cover the weekend ahead, but I'm also going to take a little look at a chart, a specific chart, before I look at the weekend ahead, because today is Juneteenth, and I, as an astrologer, have finally really committed to support the destruction of systemic racism in this country that we live in. Do what I can to help, at least, and to support and to learn about it. So, because it's Juneteenth, and Juneteenth was the day that the slaves were finally told that slavery had been ended in Texas. So it was the day that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed in Galveston. That's in Texas, with the news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free. But this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which was official on January the 1st, 1863. And the Emancipation Proclamation had little impact on the Texans due to the minimal number of Union troops to enforce the new executive order. There's all kinds of theories as to why there was a 2.5 year delay. One was that there was an official messenger murdered on the way to Texas. Another, that the news was deliberately withheld by the enslavers to maintain the labor force on the plantations. And yet another is that federal troops actually waited for the slave owners to reap the benefit of one last cotton harvest before going to Texas. All of which or none could be true. Okay. And Texas is its own kind of special thing anyway in the USA, as some of us know. So I'm going to share a screen. I do not have a time, clearly, for when this was done. I did look for one, couldn't find one. So if anybody knows a time that the soldiers landed in Galveston, please let me know. Okay. So this is a zero Aries rising chart, because I do not know the rising and I do not know the house placements. But, I do notice that the nodes and Lilith and Saturn were kind of were all conjunct over there in Libra, and in aspect to Jupiter, which is very much freedom, and in aspect to the Sun and Uranus in Gemini. News of, and also widely conjunct to Mercury and Ceres. And the Jupiter Gemini line is very much about news. Jupiter is freedom, especially Jupiter in Sagittarius. Having a natal Jupiter in Sagittarius, I know freedom is one of my real core values. Saturn would be kind of an interesting kind of mix in there, but I am going to link to the comments to a video I watched by a fabulous Black astrologer that I've just discovered on YouTube, Giardi, I think she would call her name, username, and I know her name's China. And she says Saturn represents Black people, and she gives a perfect argument for it. So I'm going to put a link to her video in my comments. Okay. Excuse me. And the North Node is our karmic potential. And Black Moon Lilith is kind of the wild kind of energy of the dark and the night and things, which is often attributed to Black people, in a negative connotation, but I don't necessarily disagree. I don't necessarily agree that that is the truth, that it's a negative. My book, The Complete Guide to Astrology, does talk about integrating the night and day and the light and dark in all of our astrological work, because not everything that's dark is bad and not everything that's light is good. So. And it's in the North Node, which is our karmic potential, and this is in Libra, the sign of equality, and we have not got there yet, have we? Okay, this was 1865, and really, yes, slaves were free, but it was replaced by redlining, by Jim Crow, by the school to prison pipeline. They were freed with no jobs to go to, with no support. They were just free. It was just like, you can stay and work on the plantation for the same cruel owners, or you can go off and try and make your way in the world without any support. So, and that's legacy has carried on to this day now, and I'm being very oversimplified for the sake of time. So if you are willing, please watch 13th on Netflix today. That's something you can do immediately, at least to learn about this history of how slavery went to Jim Crow and then went to the prison system that we have now. And then if you have more time and like to read the new Jim Crow, please read that. So, these are the main aspects, I think, involved. We also have, the moon and Pluto and Venus in Taurus and Pallas Athena in Taurus in quite a tight stellium there. And Taurus is very much about the physical material wealth, and Pluto is transformation, and the moon represents white people, according to this fabulous astrologer on the YouTube channel. And that kind of indicates kind of bringing in ancestral things. The moon is often the mother, and Pluto the grandmother, and bringing in all this ancestral energy as well. But they're in square to Mars, and I find that interesting that there's still strife. Mars-Pluto square is often still strife. And Mars in Leo is very much about maintaining the rulership, kingship, which the patriarchal white supremacy system has done. So I want to look at the transits now to this. I was going to look at it with the USA chart, but I'm just going to look at the transits because I find some stuff very interesting. So I'm just going to go to the transits right away as to what we have happening now. Right now, we have the Sun and the North Node here. The North Node is right on the Uranus, which is revolution, dramatic, radical change, okay? In Gemini, which is the twins, so it's community, it's coming together. And the Sun is on the Sun, of course, because it's Juneteenth. But what are we about to have? We're about to have an eclipse in 2 days. With the North Node still on this Uranus and still conjunct the Sun. Now, this eclipse is at 0 Cancer. The moon will be there too. Is the same in the series of eclipses that happened in 2001 before 9/11. But back in 2001, the eclipse had the North Node in Cancer. So, it did not have the North Node on the North Node on the Uranus of Juneteenth. And what do we see happening in the world now? We have police reform happening. We have more and more people speaking out for Black people. We have Black written books like How to Be an Anti-Racist, and So You Want to Talk About Racism. They're number 1 and 2 in Amazon, and people are buying all these books and learning more about it. I myself have officially signed up with the Black Lives Matter Utah chapter to help them, and they're doing some amazing work. And to fill you in with some of the changes that are happening, the leader of the local group, Utah Black Lives Matter, has been working very hard on police reform and various other things. But she has 1 million signatures now on her police reform bill, and she has senators, Republican and Democrat, speaking to her about it. She has, and we're all backing her up. We send emails for her. We do all this work to support her. So we're not just shouting Black Lives Matter, and we're not just marching. We're doing the work to bring real change, and it's quite amazing. But Uranus is also on the Pallas Athena, or about to be on the Pallas Athena of the Juneteenth chart as well. And this is, Uranus, that's an 84-year cycle. So we're about into the second Uranus return of it. And we're still working on this revolution. But I kind of have a feel that this, or a feeling that this North Node eclipse pattern is going to bring some change, and going to bring the change that's needed. These eclipses happen every about 19 years. So if we go back to 2001, okay. Now I'm not going to get the eclipse exact, but you can see it's there. And the North Node was in Cancer though, and not quite on there. But we've been working towards it. But this seems different. It seems like radical change is coming. And Gemini is a mutable sign, so it's all about change as well. And of course, the North Node is in aspect to this North Node, all at the same time as this eclipse. So if we go back before then, it would be 1982, I believe. Ish. We can see the North Node was in Cancer again then. And then if we go back to 1963, would it be? Yeah. You can see it's fairly close. The North Node was in Cancer then. So, and to go back one more time, because I want to show you, so it would be 44. The North Node was in Cancer, but right at the other end of Cancer. So each time these eclipses or these new moons, because they were not always eclipses, because the North Node is getting further and further away from this, the North Node has been moving closer and closer and closer and closer until we have this absolutely almost completely tight North Node eclipse in 2 days' time. I've lost it. Oh, I'm still in 44. That's why. Sorry. So here we are. So to go back just a couple of hours to get the moon at 02, you can see that this North Node is at the very last degree of Gemini, and the Sun and Moon are at the very first degree of Cancer. So this is a very tight total eclipse. It's a ring of fire eclipse. And to my view, the ring of fire tends to like really burn things off. whereas a total eclipse where it covers it and you get the little ring, the little diamond kind of ring, has a slightly different flavor. They're both total, they're both really powerful. To add to this a little bit, we also have Neptune over here on this eclipse, stationing on the Chiron in the Juneteenth chart, and is going to retrograde back over that, and that's bringing up the wound of all this. But Chiron can also be the key to healing. Interestingly, Chiron is conjunct Juno, who I think is in the mundane chart is more about the rights of the oppressed, or the collective marriage to each other, how we are married to each other, because we are all connected no matter what, because, whether you're black, brown, or white, what happens, and this is not an I do not see color thing, this is like we're all connected in that what happens to you happens to us, the collective pain of and wounding of all this, and in the sign of Pisces, which is the collective unconscious. So is Neptune also going to be dissolving? Is Uranus going to be bringing radical change? Uranus right now closest to Pallas Athena, who is a visionary strategist. Let's move forward with these new ways to bring change. It's really all quite exciting, to be quite honest. To look at any of the other slower moving ones, Eris is close. This is close enough. So we've got the Pluto, um, Saturn, Jupiter, Pallas Athena, big transformation of our institutions, all in wide square to the lunar nodes on the Juneteenth chart. And, that's bringing the disruption, the discord, the protests, all these things, and the shifting in our institutions. And really, I'm going to say it's all square to this. And, Eris is excuse my dog. Eris is hovering between 23 and 24 degrees over the next couple of years in square to Pluto. And they are square exactly to the Saturn in the Juneteenth chart, which, if you watch my this other astrologers video, represents Black people. It feels like real revolution is happening finally regarding racism. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on this because I want to tell you about the weekend ahead, but this is just absolutely astounding for me. Okay, and not to mention as well, to go off that chart, but still to talk about the eclipse. We've got so it's actually, I can't get it exact time. Never mind, it doesn't matter. It's actually on the world axis. So the last eclipse on zero Cancer was on the world axis, and it did change everything. It changed how we travel. It changed how it became very protective because of 9/11 happening afterwards, and we've seen a big rise in kind of protectionism since, and kind of spying to keep us safe, and all this stuff to keep us safe, and it's rippled out globally. So all of this is happening now, and we've got Hygeia and Vesta, and there's connections with the pandemic, of course, with Hygeia, with the global health part of it. But there's also focus and commitment, and the flame, when it goes out, is it was said that Rome would fall when the Vestal Virgin's flame went out. Vesta was the keeper of the flame, and it feels like the flame is being a bit doused right now. Okay, institutionally. Okay, so there's a lot to say about that. Okay, but I mentioned Juno being the rights of the oppressed, which would be, the racially oppressed people. Chiron, the key to healing, Where Lilith is there again. If you remember, they were both very prominent in the Juneteenth chart. Aspecting Vesta and widely aspecting the North Node at the eclipse. And here's the North Node bringing this radical change in Gemini and learning about the other. You know, it's really kind of it's unprecedented, I'm going to say, that people are stepping up and finally really amplifying and listening to Black voices. And I've been guilty of shutting out. I've had terrible white fragility in the past, and I'm sure I will again. And I still have unconscious bias, but I'm really trying to learn and to step into the shoes of Black people to understand and feel like what it must be like for them. So I offer my humble apologies to any harm I have caused in the past and any harm I might cause in the future and any missteps I make in these videos, but I'm trying to really learn. And a lot of people are now. They're trying to go, you know, this is time for this radical change with this new eclipse. However, this eclipse is going to be a bit contentious. We are still in these turbulent times. And Saturn does represent Black people, as I said. Thank you so much to her for this, for China. She's awesome. I really like her. But Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius, and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn too. But Saturn also represents the thumb of authority and really trying to stop it, block it, and stop this change that's happening. We're getting the opposite as well as the radical change comes. I'm a little bit nervous about the energy this weekend in the protests around the country and the globe, because counter protests are starting up more and more. That white people, not all of, well, yeah, white people in general. I don't mean not all white people in that way. Sorry about that. But the white people in general, the white ruling supremacy class they're feeling threatened. You know, they're feeling like their dominance is on the way out, and it is on the way out. And this white person's kind of okay with that. Very okay with that. It's beyond, it's past time, really. And this other I really hope you watch her video. You don't have to stay for the Q&A, but because it's quite long. But she also says that Black people are going to rise up eventually, and I kind of agree with her, actually. You know, we're seeing it. We're seeing more Black people rise up through the ranks. Black people be amplified. It's said that Joe Biden is looking for a Black woman vice president. So there's all of that too. We'll see if he does. You know, and there's a long way to go. Clearly, that's not going to, you know, that's not just going to cure everything. But we seem on the tracks. This eclipse seems pivotal when I look at that Juneteenth chart. So that's the eclipse, and that's early Sunday morning. But let's tell you what else is on the way to that, okay? We have the moon in Gemini right now. So I'll go back to that. And the Gemini moon is making no major aspects at all until a square to Neptune, which is just after 7 a.m. Mountain Time, Salt Lake City time. So that's two in the afternoon in the UK, and that's a very kind of shifting thought patterns kind of energy too as we lead into the eclipse. Another aspect that we have leading into the eclipse, which will still be active, and is this Mars will actually aspect Jupiter. Mars aspected Pluto exactly yesterday, but really all this is happening over the whole weekend. And Mars in Pisces is kind of more the spiritual warrior. kind of energy, and it's an aspect of opportunity. That's also bringing this empowered feeling of we can really bring change now. Okay, we can really do it. So on Sunday, of course, then Mars. Oh, yeah, that's it. The moon. No, I'm sorry. It's Father's Day on Sunday, but we have the moon goes into a short void from 3:47 p.m. on Saturday. Well, it's not so short. The moon goes void at 3:47 p.m. on Saturday in Gemini. After that, Neptune square. So the dreams should be off the charts, and also kind of the empathy is so heightened right now. We're about to have a Cancer emotional new moon total ring of fire eclipse, really heightened emotions, both for safety and for compassion. And then Neptune in Pisces is compassionate too. And then we get this long void in Gemini, allowing us to kind of think over all of this, until 12:01 a.m. And then we have the new moon eclipse, okay, on Sunday morning, and I've looked at that. And the first aspect the moon makes after the eclipse to move forward towards that is that the moon will actually aspect Chiron. And so let me go forward hours, I'll show you. Well, it will first meet with Hygeia and Vesta. And I've already talked about the pandemic increasing with all this, so that's happening as well, by the way. But I don't want to dwell on that on this momentous weekend. The moon is going to come up here to square Chiron and Lilith. It will, of course, also square Juno exactly, and will also aspect Uranus, that revolutionary radical there as well. I kind of think this is a revolutionary pivot point in this weekend, but we cannot stop. We cannot stop this change. I'm assuming that all my followers are kind of with me on this. If you're not, then you're not really my follower. I kind of announced on my Facebook and Instagram that I support Black Lives Matter, and I had one person say no. They don't support Black Lives Matter. So they're no longer, I'm no longer speaking to them on my Facebook page. Sunday is Father's Day as well, but yeah. So that's about it with the aspects. The moon will finish up before Monday morning by meeting Mercury retrograde, where we're rethinking and revisiting and reflecting and rebelling and revolutioning everything. So we're really thinking about how we really want to move forward to this North Node. That's the real thing. The North Node in Gemini is the twins, it's the sign of the twins. It's the it is, I probably can't find the card in here, but it's the art card, or it's the or is it the Lovers card? It's the Lovers card, but the Lovers card is about bringing it all together, and not in that I don't see color kind of way and ignoring the problems, but it's the card of equality. It's about loving each other too. So I can't find it. That's okay. So happy revolutionary weekend. Happy 19th, if I can say happy, because we're still not free, and until all people are free, nobody is truly free. So, but let's fight for freedom. Okay. Let's fight for freedom. Jupiter is about to conjunct Pluto in a few days, exactly on June the 29th, to be quite exact. And let's transform and bring finally create freedom for everybody. And I include Native American peoples in that, and any oppressed peoples, any other Aboriginal oppressed peoples in the world. So I'm being all with it on this one, but today it is about the slaves and the freedom that they still do not have. And until they are truly free, none of us are free. So don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to jump on and do a lot more things like this because I'm fired up to use my work to be the change instead of just trying to pretend that I can't mix politics in with my astrology. So much love.